from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased. Joining me from Dubai, which is something I'm always happy to have, local guests on the podcast from here, from the same city where I am. So I have Rodolph Khlat today with me. Rodolph, the way I like to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their background, their journey, and what you are currently up to. So the floor is yours.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be here, Mehmet. Thank you very much. My name is Rodolph Khlat. I'm 25 years old. I'm a co-founder of Smartr AI. We're a software development automation engine fully based in Dubai. And we've been building AI before AI was cool. It's been 4 years in the works, and we're now preparing to go to market. So yeah, that's a little bit of 1 minute about me.
Okay, great. And, I'm so happy also because, we cover a lot on the show here. So two things is first, it's a Dubai-based software development related startup. And the second thing, of course, someone who graduated from the same university as me, so in Lebanon. So that is another great thing. Now, Rodolphe, what I ask every founder, you must have seen some challenges. You must have obstacles usually people face, so you decided, what, like let's start this. So I would like to hear from you the story behind Smartr, like how the idea came, and what is the main problem or maybe problems that you are aiming to solve.
Yeah. So basically, we've been a software house for the past 4 years. We started with my co-founder and I. Basically, we were small developers straight out of college. We were trying to do some projects for people, and then we saw that we had something that worked. So something that worked, meaning a specific technique in terms of developing that allowed us to basically deliver high quality in a very short amount of time. So we wanted to scale that, and we did not have any money to do that. So we wanted a way to onboard junior developers and make sure they would be able to deliver a senior developer's quality. So with that being, we started playing around with automation and basically process automation and using AI to create code. And this is where we started having a small aha moment in terms of us doing something that would work. And that worked out fairly well for us. We've completed around 20 projects for 12 clients in 5 countries and scaled the team to 10 developers, currently full-time. And we've had clients such as Telus, it's a telco in Canada. We are the official application provider for the Dubai corporate games, as well as several other clients across the region. And this is where we started zeroing in on our product, because Smartr itself was used in all of our projects and all of our deliveries. And this is when we decided then that we do have something that's market ready, and just how this team of developers was able to use Smartr to deliver high quality almost a quarter or 25% of the time, other people can do that. And that's why we're going full on product based to basically have this product market ready and just released as a software as a service to developers and development houses worldwide, because it's a market problem we saw it was worth addressing.
That's great, Rodolphe. Now, also one thing, it was an aha moment, and because you're yourself and your co-founder, and now the rest of the team that you hired across the board. So you face this problem, and I'm not trying to challenge you as much as have you validated also the idea with like maybe other developers outside of the organization? Because what I know, and we talked about this before the recording, that actually you faced the problem yourself, and you just mentioned it. Like, so what was the feedback from fellow, let's say, engineers when they saw this? Like, any like story that you can share with us?
Yeah. So it's very interesting, particularly in terms of how this is received, because the concept of automating a certain part of development is not a very new one. However, when you go towards implementing it on a large production level, not many people use it anymore because everyone then goes back to basics, or they would have their own dedicated like small machine that would do some automation. So we have had some market validation. We currently have 50 developers on our Smartr beta program that are currently testing out our product, and we're planning on building that upwards, especially in Q3 of 2024. So this is our way of just having this market validation. I've talked with a lot of senior developers who are very close friends who have given me feedback that it's not always 100% positive, but the majority was in terms of what we're doing. We're onto something that's proper, and that we're addressing a problem people actually have and actually want to solve. Because some people just have this problem and just would go with their processes because the processes work, and wouldn't go like out of their way and change anything to accommodate that. So it's a matter of introducing it in a certain way that people would be accustomed to adding it into their workspace, because a developer's workspace is a very sacred environment that people have and are not willing to change unless something very, very valuable comes in. So we try to be the goal we got from the feedback, the action steps that we got from our feedback is that we should try to be as non-invasive as possible, which is something that we've always had in our mind. That's something that we're implementing with every new version of Smartr. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Now, one thing also, which when I was reviewing, you know, the demo that you have prepared, and and you have two versions, one short one longer one. So one of the things that I believe any organization that develops software, whether it's like an in-house or like whether a company that does it for other clients, so there are like as they say in English, the nitty-gritty, details of also choosing, the infrastructure, and doing the architecture of the application itself. uh, I know the answer, but I'm asking this for the audience to understand also as well. So how far, you think you can also automate that part also as well? Because, I'm not a developer, but I have like kind of a general knowledge, I would say, because writing the code is one thing, and then running it and maintaining it and choosing the proper infrastructure and so on is something else. And this
Yep.
is something I believe it's very important. So how Smarter can help also like software houses and even like in-house teams to manage this part of the development cycle.
Yeah, so you mentioned something that I will never take credit for any day of my life, because I'm also not very non-technical person. Uh, the quality that Smarter is built on is thanks to a person I was blessed to have as a partner, which is my partner Hanna. He is the technical genius behind Smarter, essentially, and he wrote the base code as well as the engine in a certain way that I like to call fluid software development, meaning that you have principles rather than code that you're creating. So basically, how easy is it to scale to multiple languages, multiple ways of development, and basically accommodating multiple levels as well as techniques of people? It's very, very easy because the engine is built to scale to almost any technology. We've had implementations for C Sharp. We're working on implementation for Node.js, which covers around 80% of the market. So it was built to scale, and it was built to accommodate as much variability as possible. But are we going full out to please the entire market as of now? It's impossible for us to do that now, and it's not very good for us to do that now. The goal is to basically zero down on a certain group of very defined people, and basically doing something that's absolutely perfect for them, and then moving on to something else. So yeah, that's the basic technology technique that we're working with. We've built something that's massively scalable, but we're taking our time to make sure that every set of scalability is better than the other.
Yes. Now, you mentioned automation and you mentioned like, using AI to write the code. Now there is a school, let's call it, and let's say a movement in the market, which talks about low code, no code, right? And I was exploring this, by the way, beginning of 2023. Actually, even before I knew about it, but I decided to immerse myself a little bit in that area. um, of course, there are like advantages and disadvantages. So, Rodolphe, because you're now building this, and you also kind of offer Smartr as an alternative to these platforms. So, I want to understand from you like how you differentiate Smartr from like the rest of the low code, no code platforms in the market.
So the main differentiator is two things. First one being who we're targeting, who's the end user, and the second one being what we produce. Okay. So low code and no code providers, low code and no code solutions came as a product for citizen developers, which are people with absolutely no software experience and no desire to have any software experience. So it would allow them to get an MVP out of the door relatively quickly. It would allow them to piece together a certain set of basic functionality that are common to applications directly. And it would satisfy small use cases. And there are the low code no code giants like Mendix, OutSystems, etc., that have a certain level of complexity that you can reach to, which is good for enough people, so especially given the level of expertise they would have. However, Smartr is not a tool for citizen developers. It is a tool for actual developers, which are sometimes the forgotten heroes in a lot of the situations, because the amount of customization and the amount of complexity you can do with Smarter is not something that you can have with low code and no code solutions. Because even though low code solutions promise you the moon and promise you the MVP out of the door quickly, etc., you have a very common problem, which is first and foremost, you get married to the platform for life. When you start using a platform, you're bound to this platform and everything it provides, and you cannot move out. This is number one, which is called vendor lock-in, essentially, which is the main problem. Second one being there is limited customization, because even though you're dragging and dropping, there's only so much you can drag and drop. There is limited customization, which basically limits your growth on the long term. And finally, you have zero access to your IP. There is nothing that you actually own. You're a user on a platform. And finally, this is something that's also weird, is that these low-code, no-code providers, they provide the solution for people, but how many low-code, no-code providers actually use their solution on themselves? So if you would see a platform such as OutSystems, it is not built using OutSystems. You would need custom development to build something like that. Whereas Smarter is built on Smarter. We actually use our engine to build and scale our engine. So Smarter itself is designed to accommodate junior developers, mid-level developers, and senior developers, and allow them to produce the entire source code with no strings attached. The source code is available. It integrates directly with your GitHub repository, and it basically allows the developer full access completely to source code built and organized, just as if you would have a senior developer developing with you. And this is where the power of Smarter is. An honorable mention to one of our team members, which was a very nice proof of concept to how a person can develop using Smarter, is our operations manager, Danny. Danny came around 2 years ago with absolutely zero knowledge of software development, super basic knowledge, even a sub basic. So, and in a matter of a year and a half, he reached the level of a approximate senior developer, and now he's handling 7 of our projects within the company. He develops everything from databases to productions and pipelines. It's a full development. He became an actual full stack developer in a single year and a half of operation,
Yeah,
which is
that's fantastic, Rodolphe. And my just 2 cents. Now, the no-code platforms. I'm not talking about the big ones, honestly. I'm not talking about like, for example, Mendix or OutSystems. I'm talking about the rest of the market. So maybe, of course, majority of the audience would be familiar with something like Bubble and
Yeah.
these things. So from my perspective, two things I noticed, because really I immersed myself in that and I tried to put myself in the shoes of people who would use this. And what I figured out, it's good to have an MVP system. I mean, but again, you need to shift to somewhere else later on, because to your point,
Exactly.
yeah. The second thing, which I always, raise, but I didn't get my answer, and this applies now even with AI, and I'll tell you what I mean by this. So vendor login in a sense, yes, but also you are under the mercy also of the provider, because it's a platform as a service. And if they decide to raise the prices, you don't have choice. If they decide to shut down the business, you have no choice. It's risky. It's very risky. Now, what I've seen people using no code properly with is, first, there are some systems that they allow you to export your data, the data only, not the designs, and then you can import it to something else. And they use it like in a form of CRMs, like a basic, listing and all these things. So very basic application. But to give them credit, they allowed a lot of people to validate ideas using this. I mean,
For sure.
just to be fair on this. Now, you mentioned something about AI writing code, and I remember we discussed also this a couple of times here on the show. Now, will AI, in your opinion, replace completely a software engineer, or AI is going to become kind of the junior software engineer, and then the senior engineer will just come and make the final touches, and maybe the quality assurance and the security of the application? What's your vision on this, Rodolphe? I would love to hear your opinion.
It's a very, very interesting question to ask. I don't believe in the concept of replacement because people will always scale their intellect to accommodate better technologies and to properly guide better technologies and use better technologies. What is definitive is that AI is becoming exponentially better, and a person using natural language to create an entire platform will not be something very odd and very far fetched to achieve. It is something that will happen sooner or later. However, a human aspect in terms of dealing with clients and dealing with the person actually spending the money to have an application built is something that is still a human specialty in terms of a human dealing with a human, in terms of using expertise to convert a person's idea into actionable steps that can be then given to an AI to execute is a missing link that I think humans will always fail. And this is the essential part in terms of having the technical knowledge to convert business logic into actual actionable technical implementation, and also having the knowledge to properly envision what the platform will become and then design your actual software for it to go to that direction. Because what you would notice with AI, and I'm sure you're a very heavy user of AI, is that if you give it the exact, perfect, clear cut steps, it will be your best friend. But if you rely on its vision and knowledge and with the little to no clear instructions, you will notice that it's just going everywhere because it's like a 4-year old but with the entire world's knowledge, which is I think a very accurate depiction of what it is. So will it replace developers? Not necessarily, but people relying on basics to make a living will be shoved aside. This is how all technology has worked throughout the years. The person that basically advances with the advancement of technology will always be either ahead of the curve or just riding the wave. And this is something that is common for all for all areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Rodolphe, on this point. And this is, again, like majority of the even AI startup founders in the US and in Europe and even here in Dubai. So they say the same. So AI will accelerate actually. So it will help in accelerating in doing, the repetitive tasks that usually developers, even if they like coding or they love coding, they hate doing repetitive tasks. All of us, we hate doing repetitive tasks. So this, maybe it will shorten the development cycle. So maybe if something
Exactly.
needs to take 6 months, now it can take 1 month or maybe even
Exactly.
shorter. And of course, it will save money because you can now have, I would say, more impact in the quality of the project that you do, because now you can say, okay, see, like I did this project. I mean, it's a software that has this amount of impact on your business, and I did it in a very short time. So now like you can have this balance between value and the money you ask for it. Now, Rodolph, do usually, I know like you target mainly developers. So the developers are your ICP, let's call them the ideal customer profile. But if I'm asking this out of curiosity. So if I am someone who's not very technical, right, and I want to onboard on Smartr because I have idea and I want maybe to try build something, would your platform fits me still to build something, or I would need to have like basic knowledge, basic database knowledge, maybe basic some coding knowledge? What will be the minimum requirement if I'm not a software developer to use Smartr?
Look, so we're doing something that's particularly interesting for this category of users as well as more advanced category of users, which is, you've seen it a lot, which is people promising the world's first AI software developer and stuff like that, and them going to market without an MVP and $50 million of funding. We are developing an actual LLM, large language model, which is the GPT that everybody knows, that communicates with Smartr and is an actual AI powered software developer. So, in your case, for example, you're not someone that will develop. However, what you can do is talk with the AI system that we're adding, and it would develop for you. It would configure Smartr for you, and it would translate your instructions into technical implementations for you. And this is where specifically non-technical people will find this very, very interesting. So what would happen is you would ask it for something and it would implement. And if you want explanations, it can explain it to you as well. So this is where the non-technical and technical people would meet, and someone with no technical knowledge would start to acquire technical knowledge at his own pace, because he has an instructor that will never not explain everything going on there. So this is where it would be particularly interesting for you as well.
Great. And the reason I ask you this, Rodolphe, because now our region in general and UAE, Dubai in specific, we start to see this kind of entrepreneurial, eager people who want to start something, but maybe some of them, you know, I've talked to a lot of people last year. I mean, in the year before, and when I was asking them, okay, uh, what's the next step and what you're planning to do, so they want to have an MVP because they know that the best practice, instead of developing full thing that no one needed, is to develop an MVP. And they come up with crazy numbers for the cost of an MVP. So would Smarter, also be able to help? I would say at least, I'm not saying zero cost. I'm not telling it should be $0. Of course, there will be some cost, but at least reduce the crazy numbers that sometimes we see just to develop an MVP.
For sure. Look, there's something very important to think about, is the fact that pure, actually good software development is not cheap. Because if you pay peanuts, you hire monkeys, essentially, especially in this domain. So it's a matter of what your MVP is and what the complexity of this MVP is. If your MVP is a dashboard, then this is something that particularly practically everyone can implement. But if your MVP requires rendering and a virtual world and stuff, this is not something cheap as well. But what we can promise is that Smarter will make 80% of this process much more streamlined and straightforward, so that the 20%, which is the custom business logic that's unique to this startup or this concept in general, would be handled with full focus by the people that have the expertise. That made sense. So, yeah, the goal is to make customization as easy as possible and as restricted as possible, restricted in a good way, because you just have to focus on what matters, you know.
Right.
And does this make the process cheaper? For sure, because a lot of the donkey work is eliminated. And like a fun fact, in terms of, we currently have 12 clients managed in our software house. in order to accommodate the existing clients without anything else, without any additions of people or projects or whatever, I would need double the headcount that we currently have
Mm-hmm.
without. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it gives you an idea of the cost saving part of that. And a long term vision of the company itself is creating a community of developers that is building and using Smartr, building the product and building for themselves. And you would have a pool of people with verified actual knowledge and levels of development that you could choose from. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're a startup with a $5,000 budget, you would have a level 2 developer, for example, develop your concept. But
Yeah.
if you're a startup developing a very critical MVP, which with a budget of like 50, 60, 70, $100,000, then you can get something very good from a poor team of developers or a very highly ranked team of developers. Simply from the community, no software houses, nothing else, just pure community usage. And this is one of the things that we're building towards as a company. And this is one of the things that we want to implement, because what we want from Smarter is to be a platform that helps developers build faster, better, and at a fraction of the cost. And that basically scales down to developers, development houses, clients, everyone. So everyone would benefit from everything.
Fantastic, Rodolph. And again, but you mentioned something before, when I asked you about the who do you target as Smarter, and I like when you said, we wanted to start with the small use case, and then later, you know now relating to the MVP. So this is always an advice that I repeat again and again, but unfortunately I see people do the mistake again and again, is to start on just one or two features. Just okay, I'm transparent in with my audience. So I'm recording this 22nd of June, 21st of June, yesterday. I shared, something I saw from the box.com CEO. And he said, like, we started with the simplest thing and people were laughing at us. But actually, box.com, which is similar to Dropbox and the others, so they had the success because they focus on one feature
Yep.
only. So I tell people, go and focus on one feature, one segment of the market, like one thing, right? The one thing that you hypothetically you say, okay, I think like this people would use my product. So if you put like 5,000 feature in it, that would not make it good. And I think this is one of the things that you smartly did it with Smarter, I would say, Rodolph. Now, overall, how do you see, the market landscape when it comes to software development in the MENA region? And of course, I know like even you have clients beyond that, but I mean, at least in the MENA region, like what are the trends you are seeing in terms of languages, in terms maybe on technology that they are adopting? Because I'm sure like you talk to a lot of clients and you see a lot of things going on. So what's your point of view on this?
It's booming in my opinion, because people would always want new software and new ways to do things. And the market here is not something very far from they want to invest in things that work and things that scale, which is always good when you made it your mission to deliver quality. People fell into a lot of traps, and these were a couple of our clients in which they relied on outsourcing overseas or wherever, and they ended up receiving a dismal and somewhat unusable product. And this is one of the problems in our domain, which has been there for ages, is that, as I mentioned earlier, quality is somewhat hard to find, um, specifically in very niche use cases. So the amount of investments particularly being made in software and AI is refreshing to see, honestly, especially in the region here. And it's expected to become much better and scale much better with the increments and the evolvement of technology with time. So yeah, it's the best place to be, honestly. Dubai is the best place to be specifically. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life in terms of coming here, even before finishing my master's degree, before doing anything, and just starting here directly. So it was one of a very good decision and a very verified decision given the amounts of investments and just their aim of making everything easier. And that's something that's very, very good to grow in and have as a company, as a person, as everything.
Absolutely, Rodolphe. And yeah, I'm happy to see, also to your point, people, but it took, unfortunately, it took us maybe, I would say 20 years until we understood that quality matters here. Like going, I call them buying off the shelf, something, because I was seeing this a lot at some stage. Hey, if you want to build an application like ride hailing similar to Uber or Kareem, we can provide you. Yeah, of course, but think about it. If it's cheap, is it really cheap on the long run? Like, are you
Is it
trying
really Uber? Is it really the Uber app?
like I don't want to go into the details of the technicalities and the functions, but think about it. If I want to, and this is always I tell everyone who decide to build a business, whether it's tech business, other business. So what's your number one priority? It should be the customers. And if you are like getting something cheap and giving to them, what do you expect it to be like the highest quality? Like, okay, even if you put like support agents and I don't know, customer relationship managers and all these things, like if your core is not built on a solid ground, how do you expect this to work? So I'm happy that you mentioned this, and people, yeah, I can see that they are now awake, and they understand that, yeah, if we need the quality products, yeah, that would cost money. But guess what, like, this is your return on investment later. You invest
Exactly.
in good
Exactly.
quality, you have a better outcome in business later on.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something about being a founder here in Dubai. So far from the technical aspects and all the functionalities and so on. So your experience as an entrepreneur, Rodolph, like and you came, as you mentioned, like just at a young age to Dubai. So how do you see the entrepreneurial landscape in Dubai and the region in general, and the support of also the startup ecosystem? How you are seeing that currently?
Look, Hannah and I came to Dubai together. We had practically nothing coming in. So everything we built from scratch, essentially. And if you go towards countries outside of the UAE, you might have faced a lot of issues with long processes, people not caring about how long, especially legal things take. And you would have a lot of noise. Noise is a very bad thing in a lot of countries because you have enough problems building a company. It's enough to worry about. You shouldn't have to worry about the third party noises from legal, from government, from infrastructure, from everything. Dubai and the UAE in general have done an amazing job eliminating noise and allowing someone to focus on the big problems he's solving, he or she. So that's what they've done amazingly well. And this is something they're always going forward and scaling with. Because this is the most important part, honestly, in terms of just providing this ecosystem for people to launch and people to think and people to basically try and disrupt technologies and over an overall industry. So yeah, this is in short what they've done amazingly well, and this is something I'm very thankful to be a part of. Essentially, in terms of basically being a user in this ecosystem that they've built for young, old, any entrepreneur or any business professional in general.
Right. And also what we started to see, Rodolphe, and actually this is how we met. So I'm happy to start to see also like communities for startup founders that are, coming to pop up. If you mention this, because I'm here like since 2005, and if I would tell someone something related to startups, entrepreneurship, around 2010, 2011, people would laugh at me. And actually they were laughing at me when I was telling them, hey, like this is how things, and I think one day here in Dubai we can have the same. And now we started to see this is flourishing, and this is the moment where I see people, just again to keep the transparency. Just yesterday, without mentioning names, you know I spoke to two founders, one in the UK, one in the US. They want to move here, and the reason is exactly what you mentioned. They said, like, because we can focus on building the technology, we can focus on going talking to clients, and everything else is sorted out by itself. I mean, not by itself,
Exactly.
but I mean it's very streamlined that you don't even feel it. Now, Rodolph, final thing for you. If you want to give kind of a final advice for fellow entrepreneurs and founders and even technical leaders, what you would tell them in 1 or 2 sentences, and also where people can get in touch with you and know more about Smartr.
Okay, so it's a single thing. Just keep trying, and just it will always work out, because just good, honest work will always be rewarded by clients, by everything. That's the only thing that I have the credibility to give advice on, because I'm practically early on everything that we're building. I don't consider myself an expert yet. So, but what I know is that we're building, and that we've been building for 4 years, and it's something that has always kept us running in terms of delivering quality and prioritizing quality over everything else, and just aiming to give good, honest, hard work every single day.
Where we can find more about you.
Okay, so we're currently on LinkedIn. The website is currently in the works, so smartercode.ai. I hope we'll be released by the time this podcast gets released. I assume we will. And this is we'll be on social media very soon, and there's a big marketing campaign coming up. So hopefully by the time this comes out, we'll be everywhere.
Sure, and I will make sure to update the show notes once if that doesn't come out by that time. And again, I like to be transparent, and the audience know this. So usually we have like a 4 to maximum 5 weeks difference between the recording time and the release time. But Rodolph, of course, again, I put your LinkedIn profile link in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. Really, I enjoyed the conversation. And one thing I need to just a small comment on what you said. Yes, it's persistence. It's to be honest and keep trying. I like this word a lot. Keep trying. So you just hit it, as they say. And again, thank you for being with me here today. And this is how usually I end my podcast episodes. So this is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. I'm trying my best to get a lot of different approaches from founders, technical leaders, coaches, and across technology, marketing, even mental health. So we have a mix of all these that I think it's healthy for the ecosystem, whether you are a startup founder or whether you are an executive technology leader. And again, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehmet. So it's amazing to be on your podcast, and I love your concept, honestly. So keep it up.
Thank you.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.